Thank you. Okay, so hi everybody. My name is Jordan, and I'm sure many of you today are asking, what on earth is a 15-year-old Irish kid doing on stage? Well, in my talk today, I'm pretty much going to answer that question for you. Essentially, I'm going to tell you my story, who I am, what I do, and most importantly, why I do it. So yeah, my story started 15 years ago. I was born in Waterford in Ireland, which is a really small city in the south of the island. We're most famous for our glass and our bread roll, which is called the blah. So that's Waterford for you. So I grew up in Waterford, and like as a kid growing up, I sort of always had the generic traits. I played a lot of football. I was pretty shy. I always liked to play computer games, things like that. But there was one sort of main difference that separated me between myself and my peers, and that was I sort of had this entrepreneurial mindset, like from a really young age. I always wanted to set up my own businesses and sell things. Like I used to sell sort of my old unwanted toys and my brother's sort of new wanted toys. I remember also that I used to sell karate lessons to my friends when I didn't actually know what karate was. So I always had this sort of mindset, as I said, but both of these ventures, by the way, they got me in a lot of trouble, so I'll just put that out. But yeah, I always had this entrepreneurial mindset, but the problem was I could never really find something that I was sort of good at to go with it. And so eventually that came to me when I was 9 years old. I used to play this game called Club Penguin, which is pretty much this online game where you kind of walk around as a penguin in this big island and like play with your friends and like talk and things like that. So I played a lot of Club Penguin, and what I discovered was about the sort of people who played it, a lot of the kids sort of made their own websites or cheat blogs around sort of the Club Penguin game, and they started like building up like a big audience, were sort of famous. So this was something that kind of appealed to me. And so one day I just asked my grandmother to go and buy me a book on programming. It's like a big book. My nan didn't know what it was, but managed to convince her to buy it. And so what I did was I started to learn sort of programming. I started with basic sort of web sort of programming, started watching videos on YouTube. So essentially I taught myself. And eventually at the end of it I had this big Club Penguin website, which I was really proud of, and it started doing well. So that kind of introduced me to sort of the subject that I wanted to start my businesses around. After a few years of doing the sort of Club Penguin websites, I wanted a new challenge. I wanted to do something else like regarding like computers, and what I came up was creating an iPhone app. So to create an iPhone app, for those of you who don't know, you need a Mac. And again, for those of you who don't know, Macs are really expensive, especially for someone like me. So I first went to my parents and I sort of said, like, I need a Mac, I want to develop an iPhone app. And both my parents are accountants, so they didn't really understand, well, what I wanted to do. Not saying that accountants aren't techie, but my parents weren't. So they thought I wanted to play games, and they rathered me going outside and like playing football and things like that. So my parents didn't understand until one day I forged a letter from Apple and sent it to my parents, pretending to be like a big Apple executive, trying to sort of encourage them to get me a Mac, and they bought it, so I got a Mac. Yeah, so that sort of had me on my way. I started like writing some programs for Apple, things like that. When I finally had this really sort of basic version of Space Invaders, which I called Alien Ball versus Humans. And so I saw it as sort of an experiment project, not really sort of commercial, and I decided to put it on the App Store. And funnily enough, it kind of blew up. It went to #1 in Ireland, in the App Store charts. Got a call the next day from Apple saying that I was the youngest sort of iOS app developer in Europe. So that was kind of cool. It sort of set me up on my way. And then I got like a passion to do more stuff. My next project was a game called, well, not a game, sorry, it's completely different from a game. It was an app for teachers called Teachware. So I was in school one day, and my teacher sort of had the sort of big black book, like writing all the sort of students' information down and everything like that. It was towards the end of the year, and she lost the book. So she lost everything, all the information from like the whole school year. So I decided to sort of make a more secure way for her to manage all of that, and I created an app called Teachware. The teachers thought it was cool, not really my friends. They weren't really happy with it. So yeah, but that was Teachware. So my current project now is a game that tries to teach children how to program. It's called Kids Code, and I'm currently working on that now. But another thing I do, as well as like setting up my businesses, is I do a lot of speaking. And originally, like I said, I was really shy. Like when I was like a kid, and I didn't like to draw much attention to myself. So my first sort of invite for a conference came a week before the conference, and it was the Cannes Lions Festival in France, and I was supposed to speak in front of 3,000 people. So being a shy 12-year-old from Ireland, something that didn't really appeal to me. So yeah, but I went to France a week later. I did this huge like talk, and sort of speaking sort of became this natural thing for me. Like I was really shy at the start, but like as I started developing more and doing more conferences, it sort of became a lot easier for me. Like, and now I've had the privilege to come to events like this all over the world. I've been to India before, which was a really cool experience. And then in May, I went to Saudi Arabia, which was also a really cool experience. So yeah, like I do a lot of speaking as well as that. But now I'll talk a bit about like what it's like to sort of be a young entrepreneur and the advice I can give to other young people who are interested. So obviously there's a lot of advantages to what I do. Like the first one is it's sort of good to get a head start. In 10 years I'll be about 25 and I'll already have like 13 years experience of working in the industry. So that's pretty cool, I suppose. Yeah. Also, it helps to get a lot of publicity from my products because of my age. So that's another perk. Yeah, so that's a good thing, but there's also a lot of disadvantages as well at times. Like, I can't work full time. Like, I have to go to school as well. Like, I do my studies in school on the weekdays, and then it's like on like weekends I sort of like take a break from everything and like play with my friends. So it's sort of hard to like manage being a business, a student, and a kid. So that's one sort of other problem. Another one is hard to be taken seriously sometimes. Like I've tried in the past to get things like investment or mentorship, and because of my age, people are sort of very prejudiced to like, I'm only doing it as a game, I'm not a real business person, stuff like that. So that's another sort of disadvantage, but now I'll tell you a bit like about like advice I have. The first bit of advice I have is if you have a sort of goal and you're young, start as like soon as you can. Like I said, I've been given a great head start by starting early, and because of things like the internet and digital sort of stuff, anyone can like be what they want to be with like a click of a button. Like if you want to make a film, you can reach an audience of billions on YouTube. If you want to make music, all you need is a computer, and then you can just send everything to iTunes or SoundCloud. So if you're young and you have a vision or an idea for the future, don't let your age hold back. The second bit of advice I would have is follow your dreams. Like sort of similar again, like my dream was always to have this sort of business mindset, and because of my age again, I've really gotten the big head start. And then again, my next advice for everyone, not just for people my age, don't let anything hold back. Like because the last few years I've had a lot of major obstacles, like being taken seriously, like a lot of jealousy in school and things like that. But because of how passionate I was for what I want to do, I kept fighting, and like those two bits of advice are the best I can give. So I know my talk was a bit short, but yeah, that's it. Thank you.